Have you ever wondered why you suddenly agree to things you never actually wanted to do? Why do you sometimes walk away from a conversation feeling entirely drained, confused, or guilty, even when you did absolutely nothing wrong? What if I told you that some of your biggest decisions, what you buy, who you trust, and even how you feel about yourself, aren't completely your own? Most people believe they are in complete control of their own choices and emotions, but psychology tells a completely different story. When you fall into the trap of a master manipulator, you might blame yourself. You might think you were just being too nice or too gullible. But it isn't about luck. It isn't about your personality. It isn't even about intelligence or how educated you are. The real answer lies much deeper, in the hidden vulnerabilities of the way your brain processes the world, and how certain people know exactly how to exploit those blind spots to bend your reality to their will. Today, we're going to explore the dark psychology of influence. We are going to pull back the curtain on the invisible tactics used against you every single day. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why this psychological manipulation happens, how to spot it instantly, and what it really says about the hidden wiring of your mind. So, what exactly is the dark psychology of influence? Standard influence is about persuasion for mutual benefit. It's a win-win. Dark influence, on the other hand, is entirely predatory. It is the art and science of manipulation, deception, and psychological control used to benefit one person at the expense of another. What does this look like in the real world? It looks like gaslighting, where someone slowly twists your perception of reality until you doubt your own memory. It looks like love bombing, where someone overwhelms you with affection, only to use it as a weapon later. It looks like the creation of false urgency, extreme guilt tripping, and the subtle weaponization of your own empathy. And who experiences this? Absolutely everyone. You encounter it in marketing campaigns designed to manufacture deep insecurities. You experience it in the workplace with a toxic boss. And you see it in relationships where a partner slowly, methodically erodes your self-esteem until you feel like you cannot survive without them. To understand why we fall for this, we have to look at why it happens in the first place. The psychological reason is actually rooted in our survival. Evolution wired us for tribal connection. Thousands of years ago, if you were cast out of the tribe, you wouldn't survive. Because of this, humans developed a fundamental psychological need to belong, to trust authority, and to avoid social conflict. Dark influencers know this, and they actively hijack these evolutionary traits. They use cognitive biases against you. For example, they exploit the reciprocity norm. This is when someone does you a very small, unrequested favor, planting a subconscious seed of debt in your mind so that you feel obligated to give them something massive in return. They also exploit your childhood conditioning. If you grew up in an environment where you had to earn love by being quiet, obedient, and overly accommodating, your mind was programmed to be a people pleaser. To a dark manipulator, this emotional conditioning makes you prime real estate. But let's look at the biology. What is actually happening inside your head? When you are targeted by dark influence, your brain is quite literally being chemically hacked. Let's take the tactic of love bombing and sudden withdrawal. When a manipulator showers you with intense praise and attention, it floods your brain with dopamine, the reward and pleasure chemical. Your nervous system feels safe, euphoric, and deeply attached. Then, without warning, they pull away. They become cold and critical. This sudden drop in dopamine causes a massive spike in cortisol, your body's primary stress hormone. Your nervous system goes into shock. At this exact moment, your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, hits the panic button. When the amygdala is activated, it literally suppresses your prefrontal cortex, which is the logical, rational, critical thinking part of your brain. To explain it in simple language, your logic shuts down and your survival instincts take over. You become addicted to the manipulator, constantly chasing that initial dopamine high, completely ignoring all the logical red flags right in front of your face. You might be thinking, I would never let that happen to me. But science proves otherwise. Researchers studying compliance and authority have found terrifying results regarding how easily the human mind can be bent. Consider the famous studies on obedience and social pressure. According to psychologists, when placed in a situation with a perceived authority figure, the vast majority of ordinary people will bypass their own internal moral compass simply because they are told to do so. A study published in the field of behavioral psychology revealed that humans are incredibly susceptible to gradual escalation. If a manipulator can get you to agree to a tiny, seemingly harmless request, your psychological resistance drops by over 50% for their next, much larger request. Don't overwhelm yourself with the deep statistics. The simple truth is this: people do not comply with dark influence because they are weak. They comply because psychological pressure bypasses our rational defenses. Let's bring this down to earth. Imagine someone who just started a brand new job. For the first 2 weeks, their boss is incredibly praising. They say things like, "You are a genius. I've never hired anyone as smart as you. We are going to do great things together." The employee feels amazing. Their guard drops. But by month 2, subtle criticisms begin. The boss starts saying, "I expected better from you today," or "You're lucky, I'm so patient with your mistakes." Suddenly, the employee is working late every single night. They are skipping weekends with their family. They are obsessively checking their email at 2 a.m. Why? Because they are desperately trying to win back that initial approval. The boss is using a dark psychology tactic called intermittent reinforcement, giving a reward just unpredictably enough that the employee becomes a literal slave to the possibility of praise. This is the dark psychology of influence in action. This brings us to a massive misconception. Most people think that only gullible, uneducated, or weak-minded individuals fall victim to manipulation. But that's not what's actually happening. In reality, highly intelligent, highly empathetic people are very often the primary targets of dark influence. Why? Because a manipulator doesn't attack your intelligence, they weaponize your empathy. When an empathetic person is treated poorly, their first instinct is to try and understand why the other person is hurting. They project their own good intentions onto the manipulator, making excuses for their bad behavior, completely unaware that their kindness is being used as a leash. If this behavior continues, and you remain unaware of these dark tactics, the consequences are devastating. First, your emotions become entirely dependent on someone else. You live on a roller coaster of anxiety and brief relief. Your relationships suffer because manipulators slowly isolate you from your friends and family. They want to be your only source of truth. Your mental health plummets. You experience constant brain fog, second-guessing everything you do. Your daily habits change. You stop doing things you love because your productivity and energy are entirely drained by the constant psychological warfare. But the most dangerous consequence is to your identity. When subjected to long-term gaslighting, you stop trusting your own memory. You lose your sense of self, becoming a hollowed-out version of the person you used to be. So, how do you defend yourself? You have to build psychological armor. Here is how you change it, using 4 simple, highly actionable steps. 1. Implement the pause rule. Never give an immediate answer. When someone asks you for a favor or tries to pressure you, simply say, "Let me check my schedule and get back to you." This removes their artificial urgency and gives your prefrontal cortex time to logically assess the situation. 2. Stop jading. When dealing with a highly manipulative person, do not justify, argue, defend, or explain your boundaries. They will only use your explanations as ammunition to argue against you. No is a complete sentence. 3. Watch the actions, ignore the words. Dark influencers are masters of language. They will promise you the world. Stop listening to what they say and judge them strictly by their consistent behaviors. 4. Trust the confusion. If a relationship, whether romantic, professional, or platonic, leaves you feeling constantly confused, you are likely being manipulated. True connection brings clarity, not chaos. Here is the most important part of this video. This is where your actual transformation happens. The goal isn't just to memorize a few psychology tricks to spot a toxic person. The goal is to become the kind of person who deeply trusts their own mind. You must shift your identity from someone who seeks external validation to someone whose self-worth is internally generated. When you know exactly who you are, what your values are, and what you deserve, dark psychology simply bounces off you. Manipulators look for cracks in your self-esteem. When you seal those cracks with genuine self-respect, you become immune to their games. I want you to test this out in the real world. For the next 7 days, I challenge you to pay close attention to the word should in your daily life. Notice who makes you feel like you should do something out of a sense of guilt, obligation, or fear. Try this simple habit. Say no to one small, unreasonable request this week. Just one. And then, watch how the other person reacts. A healthy person will respect your boundary. A manipulator will get angry, play the victim, or try to guilt trip you. Their reaction to your boundary will reveal their true intentions. Your habits aren't random. Your emotions aren't random. Your brain is always trying to protect you, sometimes in ways that no longer serve you, leaving you open to those who understand the human mind better than you do. But now, you hold the key. Have you ever experienced this kind of dark influence in your own life? Let me know in the comments below. I read as many as I can. If you enjoyed this video and want to understand the hidden psychology behind everyday life, you know what you do. There's always more to discover.